As a small business owner, I love to show customer appreciation. Let me show you how to create personalized hand-lettered thank you cards using Adobe Fresco. It's much easier than you think, and it makes a lasting impression. I have Adobe Fresco open, but the first thing I want you to do is to download the free layout stamp pack I created for Adobe Fresco. We'll be using this for our design. The link is in the description below this video. Click to download, and under your downloads folder, select the layoutstamps.abr file. Then click the share button icon and select Fresco. This will automatically import the stamp brushes into Fresco. Now let's create a new canvas. I want to create a 5x7 thank you card, so go and select the print tab and then select the large postcard. Then select switch to landscape. You can create it in portrait, but I'm selecting landscape for my design. And lastly, select create document. With my canvas opened, I'll rename it to thank you card. Now if we go to our pixel brushes and scroll down, you'll find the layout stamp pack that we just imported. All 16 layout stamps are included, and we will be utilizing these stamps for our design. These stamps give us layout ideas perfect for any design. For my card, I actually want to create some wavy type text, so I'm going to go with layout number 14, and I'll increase the size of that stamp, and then I'll just place it on the canvas. Grabbing the transformation tool, I'll just place it in the center, and from there I'll just duplicate that layer, and then I'll just move it right underneath it. So here we go, here's the layout I have for my thank you card to start. Then I want to merge the layers, so I'll just stack them and then click the three dots and select merge layers, and then under layer properties I'll reduce the opacity of this layer. So this is just my layout that I want to utilize, and then I'll create a new layer to start sketching my design. Under the pixel brushes, I'm going to go ahead and select a sketching pencil brush because I love to use this brush whenever I'm sketching out my ideas, so it should look something like this. To start the design, simply write out the words you want on the front of your card. You don't need perfect handwriting here, so just a rough sketch to plan the placement of your letters. For my design, I'm writing thank you so much, and I'm offsetting the so much text to the bottom right in smaller letters to give the composition a bit more bounce. Once I'm happy with the layout, I'll reduce the opacity of this layer, and then I'll create a new layer above it. This new layer is where I'll start lettering the design. And now when I start lettering, I'm using a ruler in Fresco to keep the letters neat and straight. For the lettering, I'll outline the words with clean, bold lines, making the thank you part larger and more prominent. This creates a dynamic focal point for the design. A lettering tip I have for you is whenever you're creating any symmetrical letters, utilizing the Symmetry tool makes it really easy to make those letters really neat and symmetrical. The letter O is actually the perfect use case for this because it's a symmetrical letter. So definitely try using the Symmetry tool whenever you are designing symmetrical letters. You'd actually also be surprised to know that the Symmetry tool works on a lot of letters, even if you're working on just a portion of a letter. So I've sped up the video for this portion as well, but again, I'm just tracing my natural handwriting. I focus on following the basic form of each letter. I'm just making my letters thicker, just outlining the general shape of whatever that letter is. So now that's done, I'll reduce the opacity of that layer and we'll hide that original sketch. We'll keep this better looking sketch and we'll create a new layer above it. Now selecting a basic round brush from our pixel brushes, I'm going to start tracing my final lettering. The reason why I choose the basic round brush is because it has a very clean stroke. There's no texture added onto it. You do have the choice of adding textures if you want to. That's the reason why I like just using a basic round brush. That way if you want, you can, go over it with the texture. Or if you want to just keep it nice and clean, you could just leave it as is. So I'm just going to speed up the process, but I'm essentially just tracing all of my letters. And then once I trace them, I go in with the paint bucket and I fill it in. If you come across the issue where there's a white outline after you fill, just go to the color margin tool and increase the color margin. Now refill it and the problem should be solved. So now I'll speed up this process, but essentially I'm just continuing the same process for all of the other letters. I'm outlining them and then I'm filling them in with the paint bucket tool. So once all my letters are outlined and filled, I can add color. I'll go to my color palettes, and if you go down, you can actually save some color palettes in Adobe Express if you're interested in doing that. I have my Threeologie color palette saved, so I'll go in and add some color. Sometimes I'll just play around with it, maybe add different colors that are not part of my color palette, but you do have the option to save palettes in Adobe Fresco, which is really cool. So I have my card almost done, but I want to add a couple more details that feels more on brand. So I'm going to use the Symmetry tool to add some spark because I love to add sparkles to my designs. That feels to me like it's the Threeologie branding. So whatever you feel is on brand with you, those are the types of elements you should be adding to your thank you card. Just use this as a reference. If you want to add sparkles, feel free. Sparkles feel on brand to my brand, so I'm going to add a couple to my thank you card. And once that's done, I think the last thing I want to do is add a border. So again, using the Symmetry tool, I'm going to make sure I click reset so that's right in the center. And I want to add a border. So at the very bottom portion, I have another layer. I'm just going to use the pink again, and I'll grab the same brush I've been using, the basic round brush. This one's a bit thin, so I'm going to increase my brush size, and I will create a nice cloud-like bouncy border around this card to really bring it all together. And feel free to get creative and add elements that you feel are more on brand with your business. So this is my little border. I'm gonna go ahead and add a fill. I love the way this came out. I'm gonna go ahead and hide my guides and just make sure, I wanna make sure my thank you so much text is centered. So I'll just select those two, and with the transformation tool, I'll center it. I think that looks great. And let's see what it looks like mocked up. And here's the final design. I'm so excited. I love the way it came out. Now you guys can go ahead and print and write in your own cards and send them to your clients, or you can print them using Adobe Express. I've got a whole video about Adobe Express print coming up soon, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and I can't wait to see what you create.